Hello, loved viewers. Welcome to the Tube's Weekend Edition. We had an intense week here with tech stories. In the next 60 minutes, we'll revisit the top stories of our week and dig their holes much deeper. Let's go. In the studio are Daniel Roth and Shai Ringel. Hello. How was your week, Shai?
Devastating week. We had a lot of bad news this week, and that's it. No words can describe.
How did you experience this week here in I-24 News?
Also very hard. I think people are trying to scramble and do their jobs, and it's obviously very challenging, but I think it's important that we be here doing that.
Yes, and here we are. Okay, following the atrocious terror attacks last weekend, a new game was invented by world politicians. It's called Blame the Tech. During this week, we've seen fingers falsely pointed at the PlayStation 4 console, Bitcoin, the Telegram messaging app, and more for allegedly being used by the terrorists to communicate and plan the attacks. But above all, the very concept of encryption came under fire, with American politicians demanding new legislation against it and backdoors to be installed by big tech corporations. Can this happen? Let's talk. Daniel, if terrorists use encryption messages to plan the attacks, why are big tech companies refusing to help the government?
Well, because the question here isn't about the tools that were used. The question here is that terrorism occurred, and the governments should be addressing the root causes of terrorism. Instead, they're going after these tools as if other tools won't be found. And so first of all, it's just trying to put a Band-Aid on it. They see that this tool was used, so they try to stop that. It's the same in American airports. You have to take your shoes off because one time one guy tried to hide something in his shoe. It's after the fact, and it's irrelevant because new tech will be made. The question is getting to the root of the problem, which is the terrorism. It's the belief in doing violence to civilians, and that's something that has to do with foreign policy. That's something that has to do with education, and those are probably questions that are too big for American politicians to answer, frankly. And so I don't think it's incumbent on tech companies to open up back doors and do away with privacy, which is essentially what we're being asked to do. They look for these openings, for these times when people are scared, too scared to say we deserve our privacy, even though a tragic thing happened.
But you know, people would say that even if it helps one attack being stopped, it's worth it. You know, especially in times like that. Is that a good case?
No. Let's talk about big tech. Big tech companies want to encrypt their own software for a lot of reasons. The first one is that whenever there's a celebgate, whenever there's a breach of information, the media and people will point the finger to the tech companies, not to the government who asked for backdoors. And when the government asks for backdoors from these tech companies, there's a backdoor. There will be a backdoor, and not only the government will be able to use it, also criminals will be able to use it. So that puts our privacy at a risk, no matter what government will tell you, and no matter what big tech will tell you. So there's that. There's an economic thing to it, because companies like Apple, companies like Google wants to be conceived as, when we put our private information into them, they want to be conceived as a safe companies. And when something will happen to that information, the big tech will be the one to be blamed at, and not the government. So this is why big tech wants to encrypt information and wants to, have his own tools to give you the ability to, pass information. So there's that. New tools of encryption will always be used and always be developed. It's a very easy tool. At the basic of it, encryption is something that was developed in World War II. We can say that tech companies, they use new kinds of encryption. The fact of the matter is the basic of the system is very simple. A lot of developers can just develop new tools to them, and just blaming big tech, terrorists nowadays will not use just Apple or just Google or just all the old tools we know. They'll use more efficient, more sophisticated, and new tools.
I understand. Thank you. Yes?
I only want to add, I think at the end of the day, the question no one asks is, why aren't the governments going through the legal means that they go through in any criminal proceeding, in any terrorist investigation? You need to get a warrant. You need to prove that your investigation is worthwhile. There's no reason why that should end now in history. It's a good idea to have rule of law. We know that. And that's what needs to be the basis for these investigations, not secret backdoors.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to a different subject. Watson, it's the world's smartest supercomputer. It can change healthcare, it can beat masters in chess, it can win Jeopardy, but now, well, it goes shopping. IBM has released a Watson-based app which predicts shopping trends for holiday gifts and is supposed to guide fearful parents through the tension and angst of finding the perfect gift for their kids using big data from 10,000 online sources. Let's see a short clip about how Watson works before we figure out why does IBM take it out to do, well, some shopping.
When Watson goes to work in a particular field, it learns the language, the jargon, and the mode of thought of that domain. Take the term cancer, for instance. There are many different types of cancer, and each type has different symptoms and treatments. However, those symptoms can also be associated with diseases other than cancer. Treatments can have side effects and affect people differently depending on many factors. Watson evaluates standard of care practices and thousands of pages of literature that capture the best science in the field. And from all of that, Watson identifies the therapies that offer the best choices for the doctor to consider in their treatment of the patient. With the guidance of human experts, Watson collects the knowledge required to have literacy in a particular domain, what's called a corpus of knowledge. Collecting a corpus starts with loading the relevant body of literature into Watson. Building the corpus also requires some human intervention to cull through the information and discard anything that is out of date, poorly regarded, or immaterial to the problem domain. We refer to this as curating the content.
Yeah, so we take this super smart computer and use it for shopping. What? Why?
First of all, it's IBM's idea to publicize their own supercomputer. They do it once in a while. They did it where they took Watson and put him as a contender in Jeopardy. And Watson was able to analyze questions which were asked, not in advance. He would be able to analyze the sentence that a human being spoke and, search for the answer and give it in a matter of seconds. And it was an experiment, but it also was a power demonstration by IBM to show what their supercomputer can do. And this new trend app is exactly that. IBM won't use Watson just for your shopping list. They have big ideas for this supercomputer, like putting him in hospitals where he will be able to analyze your disease and what is the best treatment to that disease. And Watson will be able to do it better than any doctor in the world. And just to see how powerful he is, they're just telling people, look, he can analyze hundreds, thousands, millions of tweets and just discover what kind of toy you need for your kid. And people need toys for their kids because it's a holiday, and now they're paying attention to this amazing supercomputer.
Or they'll link the two things, that big data should go with the shopping culture, and that might change something in shopping culture. No?
It very well may change shopping culture. When I was thinking about it, I was thinking, well, why aren't parents just asking their kids for their Christmas list the way they used to do? It's like, what does your kid want? Ask the kid. This may change shopping culture. It may change it may change family culture. It may change the way people communicate. Instead of communicating at all on shopping lists, you may have people look up what are the big trends in anything from presents in December to dinners in springtime, and they'll no longer be interacting with family. It may really change family culture. The one thing that was kind of comfortable for me in that presentation was that they mentioned that humans are still required to update the system, and that makes me feel a little bit at ease. I try not to be a Luddite about these things, but a part of me just is.
And it's also, it can recharge the word trend, because, you know, they tell you what trendy is, and then it becomes trendy, and then, I mean, how is it gonna even work when the computer actually has so much power?
Yeah, the computer is going to be in a lot of power to set the trends. It still needs the humans to talk about it, but it is a very good example and to see how capitalism works these days, because it's phenomenal. All it needs is to put out there. You know what's the biggest trend in that app right now? Lego Star Wars. Both Lego, which is a huge...
Always a trend.
Yeah, always a trend. And Star Wars, which is now gaining more trendiness as the new movies come in. So,
but there's no chance that they showed the results. No chance of, you know, someone paying the company to. The results are because you think that someone's going to make lots of money now. Absolutely. Like the Lego thing.
Absolutely. There is a chance for that. I don't think IBM is considered about that, because they have a lot of different uses for Watson, and they are not a company that needs to sell things. So
we're going to trust Watson that he was honest with us.
That's all.
Yeah, the music streaming world is having a big year, with big players such as Apple and Google entering the game. Now, all players are saying farewell. Rdio announced they are filing for bankruptcy. Popular streaming service Pandora will acquire key assets from the service for $75 million. As a result, Pandora plans to roll out new services next year that include on-demand listening. Is the streaming business becoming another narrow field with not enough competition? Let's reminisce about Pandora before we rock it here in the studio.
With Rdio, there are no...
Clearly, mistakes were made. Tempers flared. Accusations were leveled. When at just the right moment, the 9 songs that got thumbed up and the 3 that got thumbed down led Pandora to play that one song that made a bad night beautiful.
So I'll simplify it. Is there room in the music streaming service for anyone else but Spotify and, well, Apple?
There is. It's a question primarily of how are you providing the music? So, you know, a lot of these services have tens of millions, 30 million songs on their list or whatever it is. And the question isn't how much music you have. The question isn't whether there's room for others. The question is, can you serve it to people in a new way? If you think about it, at the base of the music industry, the shifts and changes and ebbs and flows have been about shifting media from records to cassette tapes to CDs to downloading to streaming, and now these different kinds of streaming. The way it's served to you is what matters. And there's absolutely space for multiple companies serving in similar ways, and there's always space for new forms of serving. So maybe you put in a song and it gives you a whole bunch of like-minded songs, or maybe you can put in 10 songs for $5 or whatever it is. Absolutely, there's room.
You know, everybody used to love Pandora Shy, which acquired Beats and now pieces of Rdio. But are they still big? I mean, I haven't heard of them for quite a while. I know they have 80 million users, 3 million paid subscriptions, and yet we never talk about them.
Yeah, because it's considered to be an old service. They have more listeners than Spotify in the United States. So that's amazing. Also, Rdio, which we didn't talk about a lot, but Rdio was, they opened in the United States before Spotify. Even though they are not older company. So Pandora is considered to be an old kind of service because it's more like a radio. You cannot pick the song you want to listen to right now. You tell the Pandora algorithm, I like this band, and he will make a station out of that band. And that is considered to be very old thinking. And it
Rdio
seems like
even older, right?
Yeah, and the music industry is kind of saying that they want to move on. So they didn't consider Pandora as a competition that much. Even though Pandora kicked Spotify ass month after month. So that's just telling you how the music industry is looking at music and how people should listen to music these days, and how people are actually wants to listen to music these days. They still like radio, and they like Pandora's algorithm, and there's that.
There's that. Well, I think it's going to be a lovely comeback if they come back. Thank you very much, Shai. Thank you very much, Daniel Roth. Thank you very much, lovely viewers at home. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. You can re-see this show, so many times throughout the weekend. We'll be back on Monday with a brand new show of the Tube, i24news.tv. That is the website. Goodbye.